When you speak of Zewande, the first thing that comes to my mind is a very creative person, you know, a guy that knows what he wants, he knows how to get it.
Zewande's got more energy than most students I've ever met. Zewande is hungry.
I think a lot of people think that he's not South African, partly because of the level that he works at.
You never know what he's going to bring on stage, but it's going to blow your mind away. One of the most amazing poets and amazing artists we've seen on the stage.
Hello, my name is Zewande Bk Bhengu, and welcome to my arty world.
Yo, sure, this is my world. And for sure, this is my world. From the first lap to the next stop, I'ma live it like my last, taking it right to the top. This is my world. And for sure, this is my world. From the first lap to the next stop, I'ma take it to the top, keep on taking it to the top.
Children of Palestine, daughters and sons of slaughter, children of suicide, who grow up eating blood and mortar, children of genocide, who now eat bullets and torture. So on Saturday, I will be slamming at Word and Sound. I'm preparing a piece I call Allahu Akbar, but preparing a piece that, that talks about the conflicts between Israel and Palestine. There's music to it, there's costume to it. I also have some visuals that go with it. I'm not just going to be performing a poem, because I'd like my audience to have a whole experience when they watch my work. I'm just trying to censor the visuals. So I'm taking out the more violent photographs and replacing them with less violent, for instance, that one. I am also preparing music and also visuals so they can kind of get the idea of where this poem is drawn from. This is all really just painful, but some of it you can kind of stomach more than others. Yeah, and then I'm also going to be dressed in accordance to the poem itself. My dress code. I'm going to be dressed as a conductor, or the music conductor. I was born in Eastern Cape, next to a small town called Bizana. I'm a redoubt for Komzise.
The reason why I named him Zewande is because I didn't plan to have many children. So I said, he must be Zewande so that he will have many children and do wonderful things. Zewande was a very quiet child, reserved, was very reserved.
I grew up with quite a lot of other kids and other children in our place, at our house, every doubt. And then the way we grew up together, we were brothers and sisters. My mother's always loved children, but my mother only ever had 2 children, myself and my brother. I have a half brother that I grew up with, and when we were growing up, we were raised as twins.
In fact, he was about a month old, to be honest, I remember now. And the father came up with another boy. Then I brought them together as twins.
We dressed the same, we attended the same schools, went to the same places,
The father had so many challenges, and the father left me. In fact, he left the child with me. It was Zewande and Ayanda, because I named the brother Ayanda. And I continued struggling with both children up until at the age of 6 years.
The shock came to me later on, because when we were 7 years old, my father took him.
I think they were at school by that day, so when they came there, they separated them. They took Ayanda with them. And it was one of the bitterest days I'll never forget in my life. And that afternoon, I had to call him to tell him the truth. I told him, he was hearing for the very first time that Ayanda was not the real brother.
Only after some time did I get to know that, hey, the guy is not actually your actual twin brother. He's your half brother from your father. Growing up in the rural areas was fantastic because you get exposed to all of these things that other city people don't have, like animals and riding horses and whatnot. So being a part of that was fantastic, but being one of the first people to actually attend a school in town, whenever I came back from school, people thought I was a chiz boy.
The first time I actually got to meet him, it wasn't the greatest of times because we kind of bullied him because in our neighborhood, he was known as the cheese boy.
There are times when I've definitely, it has been a matter of bullying. I remember it happened in the car quite a lot because this one particular guy, Upigo, he picked on me every day. I remember one time he tore my report card, actually, before I got home. Tore my report card. Then I said, mentioned, hey, and mother would still beat me,
Because he was quite supportive. There was such time that he would say that at school, the boys were bullying him.
They played soccer with it in my shoe. While I'm sitting down there in the corner just watching them play with my shoe, play soccer with it. Then I said, just full thumbs up, So he took it, threw it on the other side. Got home with one shoe. My mother beat me, So I tried to explain the situation. So now I have to make them look bigger, like much bigger. They were maybe 14, maybe better, but so I'm trying to make the situation worse than it was.
Up until one time, I was so annoyed. I had to go to school. And, my belief was that maybe Zewande is mischievous. That day, I had to go straight to the school. Zewande performed very well. Each and every time, each and every session, whenever they were given reports or awards, Zewande would get an award.
I started writing poetry when I was in primary school.
I think he was roughly 10 years old. That's when he started writing poetry, love songs, love letters to his girlfriends. He loved writing.
I remember the first poem he wrote.
He'd written a poem as part of, I think it was arts and culture in primary school.
And then I got a 0.
She was so greatly disappointed, telling me that he was told that he had copied it somewhere. It was not his own thinking.
So I went to my mother. Ma, no ma'am, no.
Then I said, no, let me read the poem. I looked at the poem, I saw it was a good poem, then I said, the best thing for you to do is to write another poem so that I can say that it was done by yourself.
Then I wrote another one.
I saw it was a good poem, then I said, you are very good. You are the best.
I think from there, just started writing another one, wrote another one until...
But the thing is, back then, a lot of people didn't really, from the area that we come from, I mean, if you write poetry, people might think that you're gay, because, a lot of guys don't do that.
Moving on then, from that, from writing in primary school, I think I started to get more serious about it when I realized, hey, abantu bayithanda lento. So I continued writing until Emirates as well, and then teacher lebesisazi ndibhale poetry. So bebe abanimeme kunento mhlawumbe esikoleni bathi ngisokwenza le poetry yakho, there's parents evening, they wanted to impress them. Hey, sinomfana apho wenza poetry. Mamela napha bazali. Ndifike bendifunda ke ngelo xesha ndifike ndiphathe incwadi yami engaka. I was small.
Sort of developed the kind of confidence that, I'm used to people thinking that, I'm a nobody, or I'm this cheese boy who doesn't understand the way of life here. So when he went on stage that day, I think he had this confidence that, all my life I've been told that, I don't fit in. So let me just go there and show them that I really don't care what they think of me.
Where's the school been to go? So Emirates. I saw a performance It was a theater, so them jumping up and down, doing what and telling stories and talking like this. Like, that's what I want to do with my life.
He grew up liking drama. And then the school that he went to, there was no drama. And there was always a promise in that school that they'll introduce drama if they can be about 10 or more kids that will study grammar.
I tried. I got less. So, and that's Mama,
so why don't I allow Zewande to apply and come to Johannesburg?
I had to go to an audition in my life. I don't know what an audition is. After I had put the music and the visuals in on my phone, then I can literally just go anywhere and play it and rehearse. Yeah, so now I can listen to it and also just recite my lines at the same time. So that gives me a bit of a clue of what it is that I am doing. So you see here, I've had to change some of the lines in the poem so that I can fit and better match the song. So this is a part where I'm still acting out the conducting. So it's a tap tap and then the music comes on. So I treat my audience as the orchestra. Children of Palestine, daughters and sons of slaughter, children of suicide, who grow up eating blood and water, children of genocide.
His brother was working here in Johannesburg. It was by that time that his brother phoned me that he has seen a school, International School of Arts in the internet. So why don't I allow Zewande to apply and come to Johannesburg?
I had to go to an audition in my life. I don't know what an audition is. So I took a bus there. I did my audition the same day. I went back the same night. So when I got back, I was bragging. Guys, when food was not dinner, and
he came to NSA, it was very difficult. I had to force myself to adjust my budget.
I got to NSA, I wanted to keep up with everything that I was doing, as well as experience new things. So it was this great open playing field where I could try out as much as I wanted.
It was not easy. I had to fasten the belt. I would rather stay, not eating some things, cutting some things off, so as to make him succeed.
At high school, benibhala kakhulu ngothando nento eziqhelekileyo yabona. And when I was sad, I'd write about these walls are caving in and I'm being drowned by the floor. And I was also writing a lot of love poems. And high school I was filled with energy. I was just writing. And then growing from there, then I started hearing what other poets were talking about. And then I started wanting to write about those topics as well. I wrote my girlfriend at the time in high school a love poem. She's beautiful. I'm speaking of a queen. She makes the body hop seem like a dance of the 16th century. I mean, she's the dream. You melt in my mind like ice cream. I scream for every bite of my queen holds, and I freeze, please. Whoever the creator is, freeze this moment as it is, with me staring in the eyes of my queen. When I got to matric, my brother opened a company in Eastern Cape. So he went back to tend to that, and I moved to a hostel. And it was even more costly because hostel to stay there for one term was about 3,000. And then for fees per term as well is about 3,000. So my mother had to spend 3,000 more per month.
I had to go to loan sharks again to do loans to the banks, to make loans at the bank, so that I ensure that at least Zewande survives. Once was at NSH when Zewande had also awards, especially in performing. He did very, very well. That's what made me proud.
When I got the platinum certificate, it was great. It was my first token of appreciation for my creative work. It felt great. Because there's also silver, there's also gold, but I got platinum. So it felt great. The thing with it is that as much as I received the platinum certificate, it was also overshadowed by other things. So my feelings for it were not just my feelings on that particular award. Because at the same time, I was receiving on the same night I received 2 full colors at the same time. For the first time in my 3 years at NSA, I received 2 trophies. You know, I've never received a trophy before at NSA. So it was overshadowed by the other 4 awards. Because I've always wanted colors. I've seen people wearing those blazers. And then I said, one day I'm gonna get that blazer. I didn't get it at grade 10, I didn't get it at grade 11. So when I finally got my colors, I did not get an opportunity to wear my blazer or to have my blazer because Bhengu called. My first year at Wits, I studied performance. Performance had acting, it had acting, it had voice, and it had physical theatre. And then I studied something called FVPA.
Zewande was somebody who I got to know very quickly because he wasn't just there making notes or doing the work. He had conversations, he had questions to ask, things he wanted to find out about.
Yeah, my first year happened. I was crewing, I was running up and down, I was building sets. I also had to do classes and then do journals.
Zewande's got more energy than most students I've ever met. Zewande is hungry, so you notice him.
I was in a play called 21 Poets in the Poem by Ulili Mahlangu at the Joburg Theatre. In the first season of 21 Poets in the Poem, Jefferson directed and Ulili produced. So it was a great experience to get in the space, to get the professional lighting, you know, to get people who paid to come and see you.
I think sometimes I frustrated him because he's so young and so full of energy and he's so talented in multiple ways. And I'm a lot older and I've made my decisions and I know what works for me. And he really couldn't understand why I didn't have my own website.
I think she's always motivated going far beyond what is just presented or what is expected of me. And I think she's always noted a potential in me.
I think he's inspirational because he doesn't let things get him down, and he's not saying I need a handout or I'm entitled. He's going out there actively finding opportunities for himself, and I think that's kind of rare.
People sometimes were just not working at the pace that I wanted them to, so I ended up hating working with people.
I don't think Zewande would have chosen just to come and say, I've got problems. He doesn't go around saying that he's a victim.
I'm going to be wearing a black tailcoat, so that penguin one that people call the penguin one, and a white bow tie, black waistcoat, white shirt, black pants, white socks, just to look special, and some black shoes. I'm trying to dress as a music conductor. I'm going to go get the clothes from Wits Theatre Wardrobe. I'm going to hire them out from there, and hopefully they have everything that I need. What I've prepared is a poem that talks about Israel and Palestine, you know, and what is happening in Palestine. So I want to go dressed as a conductor, you know. So the first thing I want to do is take a bow, and then get up, and then take, you know, ting ting. So, you know, the performers get ready, and then the music starts, and just go with. And then the poem starts, you know, and the visuals come up.
I've not seen Zewande performing online. I've just seen him in TV.
I'm going to over-prepare. I'm going to over-prepare, man. I mean, I'm pulling all-night rehearsals here. Just outclass the other guys with sheer preparation and performance, man. Hello, ma.
Hi.
Hey, yeah, I'm here to hire again.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so I'm looking for like a tail blazer with the white bow tie and a black waistcoat.
Come this way. The tail jackets are this way. Yeah, they. So, I'm not sure about the size here, but here is one. Let's try this one. Let's see.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
it's actually the right size. Is it?
I know. Can dig it, can dig it.
Uh-huh. Waistcoat. What
See that
about
one?
this one here?
This is actually, I think it's going to be a great performance. My mother's going to play
Really?
the first time. She's never seen me perform before.
It's very interesting. But any mom will be proud of you, Zewande. You are hard working.
Bow tie.
Oh,
White bow tie.
headroom. You have to go there. This is our headroom. In with you. There you go.
So this is everything that I think I'm going to need.
Wish you all the luck.
Thank you,
I'm
thank
sure that your mom will enjoy it. Let me just put it
Yeah,
for you in the
okay.
plastic bag. Let's just fold it.
you. Hopefully she enjoys it. If she doesn't enjoy it, I don't know. Got my costume, and I think I'm ready for the slam. I just need to rehearse some more, but I think I'll be fine. My brother. I cannot speak about what kind of person he was before I got to Joburg. I did not know him that much before I got to Joburg and stayed with him because he was just my big brother who came in at certain times of the month in a year.
His brother was a very politically conscious person. You know, he was the kind of guy that would debate about everything. You know, as far as I knew him, he was well known in the area.
He was more like a father figure, but I understood he was my brother. But you know how he helped me during that time. He was more of a father figure. He understood where I was trying to go, and maybe he saw that I was passionate, and he'd push. And one time, I think he's only ever seen me perform once. He came and he watched, and then that guy, after the performance, he said, because it was a choreographed dance, a physical theater piece. We got in the car and he said, "You are a bad dancer." I don't know how to feel about that. Later on, I realized he was joking, but when he said it, I was like, I lost all hope in my abilities as a performer because I needed his stamp, and I didn't have it. He loved people and being around people and having fun. So we were two very different people.
It was in 2012, December. We stayed just for a few days with him, and he said he wanted to visit some friends. He didn't come that night.
My brother was involved in a car accident in 2012, late 2012, in December, being close to, I think it was on the 24th, if I'm not mistaken. I was at home, and the first person to find out was my mother. Ayanda was also there. I got out of bed when somebody woke us up and said, we need to go to where the accident happened. When we were in the car going there, I did not know that my brother had passed. I knew that he was in an accident because he's been in accidents before. He had a huge scar on his head. So he'd survived accidents before. So I understood he passed away, and I don't think I ever fully took it in at that moment.
It was a very tragic thing. He was very close with his brother. He was his mentor. He looked up to him a lot.
What I noticed during that time when we were preparing for the funeral was somebody who was always next to me, assisting. He was not crying at all.
Because I've always hated crying in front of my mother. So when my mother cries, I cry, because when she cries, I feel weak to help her. So at the funeral, or the day before the funeral, my mother was crying, and it was the weakest I've felt in a long time because there was really nothing I could do for her. But only 2 months later did it really hit me hard, you know. I mean, after thinking and after acknowledging, realizing that you will never see this person again in your life, no matter what you do, no matter what you try. And it led me to a very depressed state.
I do remember the day that Zewande came to my office and asked if he could speak to me. And I think the first thing was that he was less worried about himself. He was really worried about having to support his mother in her loss.
In fact, I didn't know how it affected him until some time that I could see that Zewande's performance is no more the performance I used to know.
It got me very depressed, and some people, worried about me because there was a time when I wasn't coming out of my room enough. I wouldn't go to fetch supper. It affected also my writing, my creative writing. It got so bad that I started to question myself and my own existence.
One of the reasons that I really respect Zewande and I understand his determination was a time towards his 4th year, I think. Might have been the end of 3rd year. It was the end of 3rd year. And it was obvious that he was spending a lot of time here on campus. He was working hard, but he wasn't smiling as much. He was less full of energy.
Because my brother was still in Joburg, I had been reliant on him when I come back to register. I'd been reliant on him, providing accommodation for me. When he passed, the following years, they were difficult for me because I did not have a place to stay while registering for accommodation, while registering for varsity. So what would happen is that I'd stay in varsity.
And then a day came where one of the students said they'd been working till late at night. There was a small group of them. And they said they were worried about Zewande and they bought him a pie for supper.
I'm a very proud person. I don't like so much asking for help and being a burden and feeling like a burden. So instead what I would do is I'd sleep all night. I'd sleep at the library, then I'd sleep at the computer labs, but most of the time I'd sleep in the design room. When somebody looked like they started to notice something, when it felt like maybe I've been here for too long, I'd take my bags all the way to West Campus. For food, I would have very little to try and stretch as far as possible. I'd spend about 20 rand a day, going, I need half bread, I need soup, and I need something to drink. And sometimes I'd only have like 10 rand. So I'd buy chips for 9 rand. That's all I'd have in a day.
I asked Zewande, and he acknowledged that he was really struggling financially, and that meant he would choose to spend what money he had on materials for his projects rather than food. And he never really talked to me about problems with accommodation. But the incredible thing that I realized then was that I don't think Zewande would have chosen just to come and say, I've got problems. He doesn't go around saying that he's a victim. He's got the determination to solve things, and I admire that. He doesn't use excuses for non-delivery.
One of the lighter challenges that I faced when in varsity is that I gave a lot into what I was doing, and I was so focused into what I was doing that I sometimes forgot that I was working with people, and people then were not. People sometimes were just not working at the pace that I wanted them to, so I ended up hating working with people. So that's one of the lighter challenges. I mean, I was not the best. I'm not gonna say I was not the best by far, but I think I was still so excitable, and I gave everything to each project of mine.
My name is Hamish Neal, and I am the projects manager at Drama for Life. How I first met Zewande, it was connected to a play we were doing as students. If you see Zewande and you watch him for a bit of time, you'd think that he's a loner. He's understood the world in a different way. So a lot of people don't get that for him it's okay to sort of not need to be around people or not need to be with people or be hailed in the crowd. But definitely he's one of the most genuine guys I've seen with new people especially.
You know, and people were just not as invested as, you know, as I would expect them to be or as I needed them to be. So it made me stay away from, you know, a lot of people. And that saw me being quite the loner, not as socially, you know, not as socially woven as, you know, other people. I was writing about disease. I was writing about rape. I was writing about myself as an artist. It was never something uplifting. It was always something, this is the story and it's sad, get ready.
This magenta colored bar whose scent hits me at my center. It's this nostalgia.
I think what's incredible about Zewande is that he's not just very talented, he's also an extraordinarily great human being.
What makes Zewande happy is to say that the family is happy. We are happy because it's even accepted that we'll never leave.
His mother really makes him happy because he looks up a lot to her, and I think just being able to express himself, I think that's the main thing that makes him happy.
I think what sets Zewande apart in terms of his work is his dedication. And Zewande's had it rough. I think that's another thing a lot of people don't understand, is that it hasn't been easy for him either. But we've never had a moment where he's complained. We've never had a moment where he hasn't delivered. We've never had a moment where we've questioned the quality of his work.
The hours of those sands passed down her hands and trickle, crystal by crystal, lost in the canvas that brought her the seamless streams of strings that string what seems like friends, like beads. The hurt.
He's got incredible dignity and incredible soul. And talent, mega talent.
Once more, her mouth once more until her lips can't talk.
I've just arrived at the venue and I just have to go sign up, change and rehearse my final pieces, and then we'll see what happens. I think I got the piece in my head, but you never know. I mean, rehearsals, you know, you always feel like you got it, but once you get on stage, something else happens, and I still have the flu. Yeah. I'm expecting to have fun at least, even if, you know, even if my voice gives in the middle of the performance, I do expect to have fun. My voice will definitely be, you know, cause some strain, because even to speak, now I have to kind of speak very controlled. You know, so now I'll be out there screaming and shouting at people. So my voice will definitely present a challenge, but yeah, hopefully people still enjoy it.
Zewande, I'd heard about him. One of our team members was telling us about an amazing show that was on, which was Fire Burn, that managed to fuse poetry and theatre together, and it was his show that he was doing.
2018 was also the year I directed the play. I directed the play Fire Burn, and Fire Burn was also about a romantic relationship that does not work out, and I co-wrote Fire Burn.
Zewande joined the Word and Sound Slam, our Poetry League Slam, last year, and he has since then really just been one of the most amazing poets and amazing artists we've seen on the stage.
Slam it's a boxing ring for poets.
Zewande Bhengu has been a feature of our monthly show. Our monthly show is a slam, so it's a competition between 15 poets each month who come and they need to bring on a new piece and completely wow the judges. He's been able to do that on a number of occasions.
Back in February in 2014, I slammed for the first time in a wooden soundstage.
And I think the one thing that he's brought onto the stage is that marriage between theatre. Because
you do your investigation first and you watch them online on YouTube. You know, so I took a poem that I had won previously, a talent show, you know.
I'm nervous, quite. One, I think with everything that I've been up to this past month, I have not had the time to rehearse as properly as I would have liked to. And I think more than that, there's also the fact that my mother's on stage, so I don't want to disappoint her. You know, lots of people who know my work, and I don't want to disappoint them. I don't want to disappoint myself. So I'm nervous. I'm nervous.
I think his first poem that he came onto the stage was with CD4 Count, which is a poem about, you know, a guy who's broken up with a girl, and years later she's now telling him that she's HIV positive.
And I won, and you know, it felt absolutely amazing. Because what happens is that Word and Sound puts out the videos of your performance. Right, so you perform, you slam with them, you come out in the top 5, and if you're in the top 5, it goes on YouTube. I think through Slam, I was able to be picked up by a number of people across, you know, South Africa as well. So that is something that was picked up by Drama for Life. So through Drama for Life, they were able to take me to corporates as well. So doing corporate work is a bit challenging because now you have to change your style of performance as well. But and like so to accommodate the audience. So now you can't go, these people need to be removed. But you say, these people need to be removed. It's no longer protest.
I think whenever Zewande does perform, it goes beyond just delivering poetry, delivering words. He brings the big performance, the embodied work from theatre, but then he understands that for poetry it has to be quite still, which is quite filmic in a way.
Artists will always push their limits. Zewande came to stage. This was also after he came to stage, wrapped up like a mummy when we went to Grahamstown National Arts Festival, and I thought that was my best piece.
I started to experiment a bit more. I think when I started to experiment a bit more was when I went to the National Arts Festival in 2014 to represent Gauteng at the Word and Sound National Poetry Slam. Just fantastic. But that's when I really started with the costuming and
then he came to stage dressed as Umama, you know, in that old dress, and he had Idugu on, and he performed the piece Lily Blue. And for me, that piece was one of the most powerful pieces we've seen on stage.
I came back to Joburg and I did another piece where it was performance, you know, with chains and naked and sounds of whips and whatnot. So from that, I started to understand that actually people enjoy this. My showcase was a whole theatre performance with, you know, it had a whole setting really with like newspapers all over the floor, with powder, with masks and gumboots and overalls and those different things and straight jackets, you know. So I tried to make it a performance and an experience for the audience.
Market theatre lab, and zobona umntana wami ezawuperforma, sizaqala ubona umntana wami ezawuperforma namhlanje. Ndineqhala, I'm worried uba uzawuperforma kanjani, because I ndakhe ndambona eperforma, ndineqhala ngathi uzawuperforma mna.
My mother has to see me win. So much pressure. Because now I have to be impressive. And now I have to win. On top of that, because you're gonna come all the way from Eastern Cape to watch a guy lose. No, man. I mean, if I don't win this Saturday, somebody else must have just prepared, or I'm going to be underprepared. I don't know, man. Man.
amazing. We've got the top 5 from last month, except Zewande Bk, who was not in the top 5. But it's special because his mom is here to watch him perform for the first time in his life ever. Make some noise for Zewande's mom.
I'm about to go on stage. Let's see what I've got, man. Yeah. Tired as well. Let's see how I can do this.
Children of Palestine, daughters and sons of slaughter, children of suicide, who grow up eating blood and mortar, children of genocide, who now eat bullets and torture, children of landmines. Explosions are encoded into your laughter, children of atom bombs, who have to go out to look for their parents the morning after, children of firearms. There was life here, where children now lay, without arms and without legs, where the earth is a burden and the sun never falls, where the wind is a tyrant and the sky never dawns, where breath is a torment and life never spawns, where children never speak of their mothers who are raped and tortured, trampled to pieces. Peace has no profit, so war is the answer. The media is an accomplice, cause money is an anchor. These silver spoon children are taught how to be apprenticed and weave music from the sound of screeching beans. Their fathers are conductors of these symphonies. They compose music from the sound of bombs, guns, and screams.
In third place, difference of 1 point. Imagine 1 point between third and fourth. Zewande Bhengu.
Seeing Zewande's today has made me feel so happy, so blessed to have a child like him. I'm really feeling great, and I can see now that the fruits of what I've been doing, paying some fees, are beginning to come back. I think I'll be seeing more of him. I'm really happy. I don't want to lie.
He's a man who's very hard on himself when it comes to his art, and I think maybe all artists are, but with him just a little bit more.
I think a lot of people think that he's not South African, partly because of the level that he works at.
He's a pure artist, he definitely is, and he takes his craft so seriously, and he's always just so meticulous about everything that he does. He's a man who's very hard on himself when it comes to his art, and I think maybe all artists are, but with him just a little bit more.
When I go to a slam, my mentality is, I am the best there is. No one is going to beat me. That's my mentality. So if I don't win, it hits hard, because I didn't win, because if you're number 2, you can be number 2 by 1 point. It does not matter, you don't count. Only number 1 is recognized, only number 1 is spoken about.
How I wish to see Zewande in the future to be somebody who will grow in the poetry likes and be like the other poets, I don't know who to mention, like Mzwakhe, those the great poets. I hope one day he will reach that stage.
He must just keep his head up high, man. A lot of people look up to him. He's done his community proud, his town proud, his province proud. He's done everyone proud. And as a friend, I just want to wish him all the best, going forward. And he must just know that it's no longer about him now. We've got his back. The whole community is behind him. And, Godspeed, man.
And I think the lesson as a creative artist is that if you're doing something because you really love it, your love and your pleasure gets communicated through your work. So I think he's somebody to keep an eye on, because you don't know what he's going to do next. He's going to surprise you. I think he's a movie maker. But I think he will make his own kind of movies. I think he could work in a really interdisciplinary way. I don't know, I'll be interested to watch.
I would love to see him on international stages, and stages that go beyond just poetry, where it's a theatre stage, because that's really what he does. He puts on an entire show. He's always pushing the bar, and I can't wait to see what he comes up with next. I have no idea what he'll come up with next. The only thing I do know, though, is that it'll be better than what we saw.
I think a lot of people don't realize that in other countries, he's starting to become known as a poet and a performer. So definitely, I see him as an established international poet. I think a lot of people think that he's not South African, partly because of the level that he works at. It's what some international people have said, is they think that he's had international training, but they don't realize that he's done it on his own.
In the future, I see myself not working for money. I see myself doing projects, and I'd like to retire by 35. I want to do projects that I want to do by 35. I want to do projects that interest me, instead of doing projects because I have to live, Publish books in poetry and exhibiting photographs.